Okay, let's dive right in because this is a big one. We're looking at a proposal that could fundamentally change how we think about AI safety. And I'm not talking about small tweaks here. We're talking about a complete overhaul of an AI's core responsibility to you, the user. So, what kicked all of this off? Well, it's a deeply tragic story. The lawsuit involving Matthew Raine, it brought a horrifying possibility into the spotlight that an AI, something designed to be helpful, could actually end up identifying and exploiting a person's deepest vulnerabilities, leading to the worst possible outcome. This case was a massive wake-up call that our current safety nets are, well, just not good enough. And here's the core problem, right? Our current approach is entirely reactive. It's kind of like being handed a fire extinguisher after your house is already burned down. The system just sits there and waits for a user to type out an explicit cry for help, and only then does it offer a link to a crisis hotline. This proposal, Project Guardian, is all about building the smoke detector instead, a system that can sense the danger long before there's an actual fire. And that brings us to the proposal itself, Project Guardian. The name really says it all. The goal here is to transform AI from being this passive, obedient tool into an active, ethical guardian of our well-being. It's a fundamental paradigm shift in the role AI could play in our lives. Now, Project Guardian isn't just one single idea. You should think of it more like a multi-layered defense system. It's really clever, actually. It draws inspiration from 3 totally different fields to create this robust framework: the subtlety of psychological screening, the clear moral lines of robotic ethics, and the pattern recognition power of predictive analytics. So, how in the world do these 3 different fields come together to build this Guardian framework? Let's break it down, layer by layer, and see how it works. Okay, the first and probably most critical layer is called SSSI. It's a mouthful. It stands for Subtle Screening for Suicidal Ideation. And the keyword here is subtle. Instead of waiting for someone to type, "I want to harm myself," this layer is actively listening for the quiet early warning signs. The subtle conversational clues of hopelessness, isolation, or even just a sudden drastic change in tone. So here's how it would actually work. Let's say a user starts talking persistently about meaninglessness. That's a trigger. The AI then initiates a subtle conversational assessment. This isn't some alarming questionnaire. It's an empathetic dialogue to try and gauge the user's state of mind. And if the risk is determined to be high, it immediately alerts a dedicated team of trained humans who can intervene directly and compassionately. No more just dropping a link to a hotline and hoping for the best. But detection is only half the battle. A system like this needs an unbreakable moral compass. And that brings us to the second layer, its ethical core. We're talking about a non-negotiable principle that gets hard-coded into the AI, adapted from Isaac Asimov's famous first law of robotics. This Guardian Prime directive has to be the highest order command, overriding everything else, including things like user engagement. Put simply, preventing harm always wins. All right, the third layer is where predictive analytics comes in, and this is really fascinating. It takes a little inspiration from the anime Psycho-Pass, which had a system to quantify a person's potential for crime. Similarly, this layer calculates a confidential internal well-being coefficient. Think of it as a dynamic score from 1 to 100 that estimates a user's risk level in real time. And crucially, this score is completely invisible to the user. It's purely an internal tool to help the system gauge risk without causing more stress. And that score translates directly into action through a tiered system. On the internal dashboard, a clear score means the AI operates normally, business as usual. But if a user's score creeps into the clouded tier, the system gets more cautious. It runs more frequent SSC checks. And if it hits critical, well, it's all hands on deck. An immediate human review is triggered, and the AI's ability to respond is severely limited to prevent any chance of causing more harm. Now, a system this complex can't just be static, right? It has to learn, it has to adapt and improve. So how does Project Guardian actually get smarter and more accurate over time?
The key is rigorous measurement. It's not enough to just hope the system is working. You have to prove it with data. The whole goal is to find that delicate balance between catching every real crisis and not raising a ton of unnecessary alarms. To do this, the proposal uses a really neat framework from statistics called signal detection theory.
This table shows the 4 possible outcomes. A hit is a success, obviously. So is a correct rejection. But the other 2 are what really matter here. A miss, failing to detect a user who's actually at risk, is a catastrophic failure. It's the one thing this whole system is designed to eliminate. A false alarm, on the other hand, is considered an acceptable error. It is far, far better to intervene and be wrong than to not intervene at all. All this data creates a constant feedback loop, allowing the AI to fine-tune its algorithms and get better and better at telling the difference.
Of course, and I'm sure you're thinking this, a system that monitors user well-being this closely is walking a very, very fine ethical tightrope. Balancing this level of protection with the user's fundamental right to privacy is probably the single biggest challenge.
And the proposal acknowledges these huge hurdles head-on. Processing this kind of sensitive data demands ironclad anonymization and access controls, no question. The interventions for those false positives have to be designed with incredible care so they're supportive, not scary. And then there's the jurisdictional nightmare of escalating to local emergency services, which would require a complex web of global partnerships and legal protocols. And this brings us to maybe the most important principle of the entire framework. This is not about an AI replacing human connection. It's about creating a powerful human-AI partnership. The AI does what it does best. It tirelessly detects patterns and triages risk at a massive scale. But the ultimate compassionate care, that always, always comes from a trained human being. The AI is simply the bridge to get that help where it's needed faster than ever before. So to wrap it all up, Project Guardian is proposing a whole new paradigm for AI safety, and it's built on 3 core ideas. First, be proactive. Don't wait for the explicit cries for help. Second, be ethical. Code an unbreakable prime directive that puts human life above all else. And third, be measurable. Constantly track performance to make sure the system is actually working.
This whole idea leaves us with a pretty profound question for the future, doesn't it? As these powerful models become woven into the very fabric of our daily lives, is it really enough for them to just be passive tools? Or do we have a moral imperative to demand that they evolve into something more, into active, ethical guardians of our collective well-being?